This is my review of the Eagles album Desperado. It was released in 1973 and produced by Glenn Johns. So this was one of their last albums that I got, and I just kind of like, it was an album that I knew going into it was kind of their most country album, and it was kind of a concept album, and that kind of made me not want to get it really. And I think it's an album that a lot of people, it just seems to be either like people really like it or they really hate it. It doesn't seem to be like a in-between album, at least from the stuff that I've kind of read. And I think it's a band, or I mean an album that the band themselves kind of feel a little bit conflicted over because it wasn't as big as the first album, didn't do as well. But I was really surprised the first time I listened to this album. I just really liked it, and I kind of wasn't expecting that at all. This was the last album that Glenn Johns produced, like all the way through for the band, and I think that they weren't happy with some of the vocals on the album. They thought he put like too much echo on them, and I can like hear the echo that they're talking about. But I like the production of this album a lot overall. I think that they just, I don't know, it sounds, I think, the way it should sound for like the concept and stuff like that. And so I really like Glenn Johns' production on here. That as far as the songs on the album go, the first track, Duel and Dalton, I think is a really strong opening track. It's written by Henley Fry, J.D. Souther, and Jackson Brown, and I just really enjoy the way the whole band plays on it, and I think that Henley gives a really strong lead vocal. One of my favorite tracks on the album, if not my favorite. I don't know, it's kind of hard for me to choose on this album really. Second song, 21, Bernie Ledden song, and I think that it's another really great song. It's got kind of a cool, like, almost bluegrass thing going on. Really cool banjo from Bernie. I think he gives her a strong lead vocal too, and just a short song, but it's just really catchy. And the third track on the album, Out of Control, is a song written by Don Henley, Glenn Fry, and Tom Nixon, and it's a good rocker. I think that if I had to pick a weakest song on the album, I'd probably pick this one. But I mean, actually, probably the Duel and Dalton instrumental. But if I had to pick like a full song, it'd be this one. But I mean, it's not really a weak song. I think it's a good song, but just I don't know if I had to pick one. I think that Glenn Fry gives a strong vocal on it, even though it's kind of weird. It's like this is a pretty kind of unpolished, almost sounding vocal for this band, but I think that they were trying to make it sound rough given like the subject of the song and stuff like that. But one of the more rockin' tracks on this album, really, along with just one other. Pretty good song, but not my favorite one. Fourth track, Tequila Sunrise. It's a song by Henley and Fry, and I think it's one of the best known tracks on here, and it's always been kind of one of my favorites, but I've listened to it a little bit too much. But I'm still like, I'm not sick of it. I just don't put it on quite as often as I used to. Fifth track, Desperado, the title track, and this was really the first song on here that I was ever familiar with. And for a while, I really didn't like it in my like hating country phase, but I've really grown to like it now and to get pretty into it. It is a track though that I hear a lot of people don't like, so yeah, I mean, I can kind of understand that, I guess, but I like it. Sixth track, Certain Kind of Fool, song by Randy Meisner, Don Henley, and Glenn Fry, and it's one of my favorite tracks on the album. I've heard some criticism before of like Randy's vocal, and I can kind of see that. It did actually take me a while to come to appreciate his vocal on this song. For a while, it's one of kind of my least favorites of the vocals he does, which I like love all the Randy vocals usually. But now I really like it. It's just kind of a more like aggressive vocal, I feel like, than what he normally does. But cool song overall. I've always thought it was really catchy. Seventh track is the Duel and Dalton instrumental, which it's got some cool banjo on it. It's kind of like just, I mean, it's really short, but like I said, it almost kind of doesn't count as a full song, but it's pretty cool. The eighth song, Outlaw Man, the only cover on the album. This one is the other kind of pretty hard rocking song for the album, and I like it a lot. I think it's got another strong kind of rough vocal from Glenn Fry, and I think the bass on it is just really cool. I mean, Randy's bass playing on this whole album just I think is great. The ninth track, Saturday Night, was written by the whole band. Henley sings most of the songs most of the song with Randy coming in on some parts, and it's just kind of a nice slow acoustic song. I've always liked it a lot. 10th track, Bitter Creek. This is another Bernie song, another really strong lead vocal from him, and it's got some really cool acoustic guitar parts on it. Just really, I think, underrated song from Bernie, who's I feel like kind of underrated in general. And this, I feel like, as a whole, is just a really strong album for Bernie, which it kind of sucks a little bit because he starts to kind of get like, like less time on the albums after this. So, anyway, then the 11th and final track, Duel and Dalton, Desperado Reprise, is I think a pretty cool way to end the album, at least in my opinion. I could see people not liking this or not being into it because it's just basically kind of two songs kind of stuck together, and the songs are songs that already happened. But to me, it's different enough that I really like it, and I always really like the Duel and Dalton part anyway. And then I don't know, the Desperado stuff kind of adds and adding that into it kind of I think works really well. And I actually kind of like it better than the actual Desperado song, this reprise of the two songs that close the album. But I could kind of get not liking it, but I think it's a really strong way to close the album. So yeah, Desperado for me, one of my favorite Eagles albums, maybe almost even the favorite, or my favorite. I don't really think there's a bad song on here. I get why it wasn't that popular, and why some people wouldn't like it, but I think it's just a really great album, and kind of the last real thing for the original 4-person part of the band, because after this they'll add Felder for some tracks on the next album, but kind of a cool way for this part of the band to go out with just like a really great album. So yeah, Desperado I think is a really underrated album.